Hi, and welcome to Three Questions with. I'm everybody Brandon Campbell with us from North Shore Planning. Good morning, Brandon. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
So let's jump in. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yes. So again, I'm Brandon Campbell. I'm an estate planning and elder law attorney. I have an office in Beverly, and I help families stay out of court, stay out of conflict, and pass on their assets to their intended beneficiaries and keep families safe and protected.
I like what you just said, intended people. So use myself and my wife as an example. We don't have any children. And one day I spoke to someone like you and they explained to me what would happen in that freaky simultaneous accident. And one of us dies and the other one, this, you die, this happens. She dies, this happens. And you're like, but that's not what I want to happen. That's why you need a plan, right?
Right. And a lot of people think of estate planning as just having a will. They think, oh, I've got a will, I'm all set. We just need something simple. Well, unfortunately, if your whole idea of estate planning is just a will, look out, because the issue with a will is while it is something that you can use to pass on your stuff to the people you love after you die, there's a whole lot of things that it doesn't do. A big part of estate planning involves planning for incapacity. If something happens to you and you don't pass away and you don't have certain advanced directives in place, then at a very difficult time, you may look at your family having to run to court to get authorization to make medical decisions for you, to make financial decisions for you. And if you haven't made those determinations in advance, it's going to be put on your family to do that. And as we know, not all families get along. And if you haven't decided who you want to be in the driver's seat, and there is some disagreement about it, then voila, you've got family conflict. And that's one of the things that it's really important about estate planning, is keeping the family out of conflict. Now, going back to a will, wills are great, but if that's all you've got nothing in place for incapacity. And by the way, if you have a will, you're guaranteeing that your family is going to have to go to court, because where there is a will, there is a probate, which is a whole court proceeding about proving that will and dealing with creditors. And while I write many wills, I try and design estate plans, in fact, that don't even rely on the will.
Interesting. Brandon, I get worked up on this topic, as you saw before the show, because I find that some of my friends don't want to have an adult conversation with their parents, or their parents don't want to have an adult conversation. You need to be adults about it. Unfortunately, we're all going to die. So, I have friends like my mom and dad died, and I found out my dad had 7 bank accounts we knew nothing about. Luckily they found the statement somewhere. But it's important to have that adult conversation, right? And not leave your children in that situation.
Yeah, it's not all that uncommon for the children to be the adults. And if you have a situation where you have some maybe aging parents and they haven't taken care of business, and you don't want these kind of things I was talking about earlier to fall to you, one of the things that you can do, and that I suggest, is that do your own estate planning. And then you can go to mom and dad and you can say, hey, I've done the responsible thing. I've taken care of, my family. Why don't you take care of your business too? And if you come at it from a place of responsibility, you can often get some parents on board that way.
That's clever, actually. I like that. But also, earlier the better, right? I have a lot of people who wait and, geez, dad needs to go into a nursing home, and now they're trying to protect assets, and it might be a little too late.
Yeah, for that type of planning, if you want to protect assets from the nursing home, you really need to get out in front of it. And the old joke is, if you want to like, shelter your assets, give away everything you have 5 years and a day before you go into a nursing home. But unfortunately, nobody knows when they're going to be going into a nursing home, although as many as 70% of people will need some type of long-term care before they pass away. It's really important to get out in front of that type of planning because there is a limited window. And to go back to your the other thing you said that stuck in my head, and it happens a lot. It's, something happens with your parents, and you don't know what their assets are. So you're stuck trying to go through their drawers, their old bank statements, waiting by the mailbox to see if something will come that will give you some clue as to what they had. And a very important part of estate planning is keeping track of the assets, because there are billions of dollars that are lost because of in part because the family doesn't know what you had. And there's 2.4 billion sitting in the Massachusetts Division of Unclaimed Property, and a lot of that is because people died, and whoever owns it, they don't know who owns it.
Right, yeah. But we've seen that where you've had an old insurance policy that you took out at a former company, and you just don't think that, oh yeah, that's right, I had that, and you never mentioned it, so they just don't know it's there. But it's hard, because you're like, okay, we know we need to provide care, but if we don't know what type of assets they have, how do we, look and say, well, can we afford to do this and stuff? So I think it's important. So Brandon, what's the best way for people to reach out to you? How can they learn more?
Yeah, you can reach me at northshoreplanning.com. I invite anyone to have a complimentary 15-minute discovery call where I can get to know a little bit about you and what you may be concerned about, and see if I'm a good fit for you and I can help you. And then if so, then we can move forward from there.
Awesome, Brandon. I appreciate you taking a few minutes to come on the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
Thanks for having me on, Kevin. It was fun.